right, so happy 2018, and we're talking about making your 2018 rock. Some tips to do that, and you may have been watching. You knew that we were going to be starting to do this, and we are in our home setup here. So
Our fancy dancy new little teaching space, which is kind of this camera goes like fuzzy. Anyway, Doug did such a beautiful job hanging our little chalkboard so we could teach from the space, and
yeah,
got a fancy marker.
fancy marker. Okay, so what did we talk about? We talked about the acronym, the wonderful acronym that Heidi came up with is the end goal. And the inspiration was when we were talking about the ride home, said, what are some steps you would suggest to make a kick-ass 2018? And the first thing I thought of was like, okay, well, we've got to put the end in mind, and it's what we all want to do is leave a legacy. Like, what at the end of our days, at the end of the year, what are we going to be celebrating? So the first is the L of legacy, and that L also could be learn, right? To learn from your past, learn from the experiences, both positive and negative, and then also learn from others, right? The best way to really capitalize on mistakes is capitalizing on other people's mistakes. This way you don't have to pay long term. And I know Heidi had another frame, and I'll dig a little bit deeper, but there's another thing that she wanted to share as far as the L and the learning.
Learning from the past. My Angelou has a really great quote that says, "When people show you who they are, believe them the first time." And this came up over the weekend when we were doing our family program, where I think one of the biggest challenges that people get the most frustrated in their relationships is because it's like the expectation of somebody to do something radically different or radically out of character than they've continually been doing over and over again. Now, I'm not talking about can people really, if they want to change, can people really change? I'm talking about there are people that look at people who have psychological limitations, physiological limitations, and look at them and expect them to suddenly behave, like Doug says, according to their map or model of the world. And when we're learning from the past, it's like we're looking at our past relationships and we're being a student of the people in them and saying how, instead of, like, what I always teach is to trade righteousness for reality. A lot of people that we attract are righteous people. I think you're one of the most righteous people that I know. Righteous meaning wanting to do the right thing, always knowing kind of right from wrong. And because though we have this sense of righteousness, we can carry that around and say, oh, you know what? People should behave the way that I would behave. People should behave the way that they should behave, all that righteousness. Instead of, oh shit, how are they really behaving? What is the reality of this human being? And so learning from the past is actually looking at a person, taking all of that person into account and saying, okay, you know what? I'm not going to keep looking at a chicken expecting it to bark.
Or a fish and expect it to climb a tree.
Right. For me, that's really important, learning from the past is like, don't keep going back in and expecting it to be a different outcome.
Beautiful. Yeah. And from ourselves, like one of the things we could learn about our own past is like, what are some past patterns that have supported, right? Because there are obviously some patterns that we have that we may not even be aware of. So what we could look at are our results and go, okay, what kind of result do I have and how did it get me there? And then also, so what you do is like learning from the past of going, okay, let's look at the year in review and say, what are some things that we kicked ass at? What are some things that were amazing? And then you go back more than just a year, like get really excited about some of the things you've overcome. Start building some momentum. Go, okay, I've done some stuff in the past. I've overcome some obstacles. I've healed some relationships. I was able to
some of those things.
Right.
Leave it in the past.
Leave it in the past, or also let go. What are some things you're able to let go of? The things that have been holding you down. Yes, let it be. Right. So there's so many L's. So one of the things, the strategies you could do in this context is start taken an inventory of all the things that you're really proud of. And it doesn't have to be just for the last year. Like, just over time, what are some things that, man, there was a time when you had a challenge and you still overcame it. Maybe you started a job, maybe you started a business, maybe you purchased your first car. And in this context, like, I just come from, Heidi was sharing, because this is very impromptu, and I just came from a property that a rental property that we're working on. And, I thought in order to do this first one, this is our second one that just in the near early times here, is that I remembered, for me buying my first house many, many years ago, and what I had to go through it, and I thought about it, and then I was like, all right, when I got my first job in music, and the things that I had to do, and how did I make that happen when it seemed overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, taking on a mortgage, taking on the insurance, taking on all of that, what did I do? And I got excited about it. I did it before, I got excited. When I took on music, and I took on these challenges, and I went in and would, learn a new kind of music or a new style and figure out how to record that, how to mix it, how to produce it. And then like, oh man, I learned what it was. And what it was letting go of all my preconceived notions of the past things that have maybe stopped me, the stories I told myself. And then I learned from others. So what I did was, in music, I found a mentor or two or many. And I just listened to what they thought about stuff. Listen to another L. Listen to your heart. Listen to your mind. Listen to God. And then I was able to adopt some of their philosophies about whatever we were doing. So whether it was in music, whether it was in now real estate, whether it's in relationships. I mean, I listen to my wife quite a bit on more than just like happy wife, happy life kind of thing. Like, I literally pay close attention to, because she's a master at all things in relationships and learning to love yourself and learning to love others, and she's my model for that. So I'm learning constantly.
Oh, thanks, honey.
Well,
That's nice.
it's true, right?
Oh, thanks.
So the point being, in this context, in relationships, in health, in taking your business to the next level, in anything that you want to improve and transform in 2018, one of the first steps to do after you'll start getting a big legacy, like, what you want to achieve, is get excited about what you have achieved. And that's going to open up the realm of possibility, because you go, wait a minute, I've actually done some really cool stuff, and I've learned so many things.
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about our dynamic when we teach, and I'm thinking, like, we're a car battery. Okay, we're a car battery, and a car battery needs a positive and a negative to charge it up, right?
Right.
So for us, we have one thing, which is learn from the past. I'm going, don't repeat that same damn pattern. When people show you who they are, believe them. That's a chicken. That ain't a dog. It's not gonna bark. Like, I'm telling that, right? And you're going, get excited about all the things you've done in your past. Learn from others. But that's that's the two things. To every point, there is something encouraging and a little bit of ass kick.
Of course.
Right?
Absolutely.
Which is so important to balance, which I think is amazing that we can add that balance.
Well, and my philosophy is celebrate what works and then add what's missing.
And
I'm not going to focus on all that.
My thing is, and I focus on what's not working. I go, let's put a light in there and get the cancer. Right? So it's good. It's a perfect marriage.
Yeah.
For teaching. And
so you get the best of both worlds. You do indeed get the beauty and the beast.
And the brains, I thought you were going to say.
No, that's from Anchorman. Oh, it's just
I know.
Nobody gets me.
I get you.
Okay. So that was our short bit of business on L on legacy, unless you have something else to add.
No, I think that was really complete. There's so many different, one of my favorite things is be like Elsa, man, and let it go. Learn from it. Let it be.
John Lennon, let it be.
Let it be. Trade righteousness for reality.
And then, so what we'll do is we'll add to this, because this is going to, maybe what I'll do is I'll create a recording on just the idea of that goal setting process of getting into state to celebrate the past, and we'll maybe make a worksheet with all the questions that you could ask and start digging a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and we should put it on your website too.
Yeah.
They can download it.
Yeah.
What are you using? Revolutionarygrowth.com.
Revolutionarygrowth.com. We'll put it up there.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll put that up there, and maybe I'll record a closed eye to get you into state, and then just go through the exercise, and we'll just sit there and go through it. And you're gonna have to get a little bit weird. Might ask you to get up and move and jump and like really get your body into that peak state as you're writing that stuff down, and you're feeling the excitement, the passion, the energy. Because sometimes, if you think about it, we can intellectualize the past. And what's interesting is, well, it's easier, and what Heidi shared, I think one of the reasons why, it's so important that you really get a handle on it and let go of it is oftentimes when we think of those challenges, those pains, the wrongs, the all of that, we feel it viscerally, and a lot of times people then need to escape from that, and it's really what, the stick. And oftentimes people don't make big enough of a deal of the carrot. They don't make a big enough deal and celebrate enough and be like, this is freaking awesome, like, and really put it in our bodies, because from that state we'll then be able to make some amazing plans, right? Because think about it, if you're feeling amazing about all the things that you have done and all the challenges that you've overcome and all these amazing things, do you think it'll be easier to think bigger than if you're like, oh man, well, last year sucked, and I don't want to have another shitty year like 2017 or worse, 2016, or even worse than that. I just, oh man, I just want to avoid that. It's going to be really hard to think big because the gap gets really, really big. But if you acknowledge and let go of those things, yes, everyone's got these challenges, and you get yourself into a higher energy state, you can then reach for even higher with more grace and elegance.
Beautiful. Well said, honey.
Or not.
Great.
So with that being said, anything else?
Nope.
No. We love you for who you are and who you aren't. Stay tuned for the next 5 steps. Alrighty.
Bye-bye.
God bless.